So what did I miss? What did I miss?
Welcome to this edition of What Did I Miss from last week, Thursday, March 4th, and Friday, March 5th. So last Thursday and Friday were spent as in-class workdays on our climate change project, where we are going to take thermodynamics and weather concepts and use what we've learned to describe how climate change is impacting a specific location of the world. So we had time to work on our climate change project. If you had not done the Deep Ocean Current Nearpod, the asynchronous work from last week, then you did have time to work on that as well. And then we had just a quick wrap up of the schedule for the next week. So on our module page for this week, you might notice that there is the climate change mini project. And you can see here that there are some resources collected so that you don't have to just randomly Google information. These are good, verified websites that have the data that you need. And this project is due Wednesday, March 10th at 10 p.m. with a deadline of Friday. And it's just a reminder to submit. So remember, we would launch our document from the bottom window. But again, there are some resources here that can help you with the project. So let's go ahead and look at the assignment. So again, this is just a reminder that you should be typing in your own words, your own information. And then if you're going to take information from somewhere else, use your citations. You can use something like EasyBib or Citation Machine or Noodle Tools to format your citations, but I do need to know where the info is coming from, even if you paraphrase. If you take a screenshot of a graphic or chart, make sure you get the URL, the website that it's from, so that you can find that image again in the future. And you can even put those just right underneath your answer. So let's go ahead and start with identifying your topic. So you're going to acknowledge what your assigned topic is, and you can find your assigned topic by clicking on the link that says here. And this will open up a list of all students in our class and the city and country you have been assigned. I tried to give everyone your first choice. However, if you didn't fill out the form, or if you chose a very large country, then assigning you a city actually makes your job easier. Because, for example, if you think of the United States even, the United States spans so much of the globe that the weather in Florida and the weather in Alaska are two very different weather patterns, climate patterns, and so they're going to be impacted by changes in climate differently and face different challenges. So by assigning you a specific city within your country, it just narrows down the data that you're looking at. So that is step one, is to find the city you're assigned, and you're going to type it right here. After that, we are going to go to the project resource page, and this is going to help you answer questions about temperature and weather. So I'm going to go ahead to the project resources page. This can also be accessed under this week's module. So again, you could go from the link in the assignment itself to project resources, which is at the end of questions 2 and 3, or you can open it directly through the module. And you'll see here, all of these little drop downs have different pieces of information. I am going to walk you through the World Bank website just to make sure that we're on the same page and that you understand how the resource works. So opening up the link will take you to the portal. And the first thing you're going to want to do is select country. So again, that's at the top. You would choose country from the menu at the top. Now I prefer to view by list. You can click on the country on the map. And I am going to use Austria as my example since no student chose Austria. I'm going to go ahead and pick Austria myself. And when you select your country, what it does is it takes you to a page that has an overview of all the information found about Austria. So you can look at some of the context, some historical trends, projected trends, climate by sector, vulnerability, things that are susceptible to climate change within that country, impacts of climate change, how they're adapting. All of that good stuff is on this overview page. But for our assignment, I do want you to focus for those first few questions about temperature, atmosphere, and rainfall. We're going to get that data, from the climate data page. And we're going to start off by clicking on climate data and then hovering over where it says historical. So climate data, historical. So when you see that at the top, you know you're in the right spot. Now I'm going to use Vienna, Austria as my assigned city for when I get to my map. So the first thing we're going to do is locate where Vienna is on our map. If I am not familiar where my city is, well, that's not a big deal. That's what Google is for. So let's say I don't know where Vienna, Austria is. I can search and go to Maps. And while it's really zoomed in, if I zoom out, I can now see that Vienna is located in the right-hand side of Austria. And so when I go back to my climate change portal page, I'll be able to find Vienna a lot easier. And sure enough, there it is. So step one is to click on your location, your assigned location on the map. And what that's going to do is, instead of giving you data for the entire country, now all of my data here in this table is going to be specifically for Vienna, Austria. Now, you might notice these time period settings. For question number 2, it asks for current data throughout the year, throughout the seasons. You're going to want to choose the 1991 to 2016 option. So that is step number 1. To have a temperature-only graph, you're going to select annual temperature. So now you can see here, my variable, again, is annual temperature. My time period is the last 30 years. And what this is going to show you is the average temperature throughout the year, so that you can kind of see which months are warmer, which months are cooler. You can even view it in full screen if you want to see the chart bigger. You can also download just the graph if you wanted to then upload it to the Google Doc if you don't like taking screenshots. But this chart right here is one of the pieces of information you'll need. And I want you to notice that it is measuring in degrees Celsius. So it is on the Celsius scale. For question number 3, when you're asked for 100 years ago, all you would have to change is the setting in time period to go back to 1901 to 1930, and that will give you the data then. So again, you want to get a screenshot for question 2 and 3 so that you can compare what it looks like right now to what it looked like 100 years ago, so that you can see how things have changed. Eventually, in the rainfall section, if you scroll down to annual precipitation, that means rainfall, it's going to show you the average rainfall for the time periods you select. So this is how you would get the rainfall data for your region. One final thing, for the projections, for the future data in question number 3, you want to click the projections button. So you want to go to climate data at the top of the page and then select projections. Now you want to have it set to temperature for 100 years or 80 years into the future. Now the thing is, you do have to reselect your city. So I'm going to reselect Vienna. And I want to make sure that I select mean. And mean is a fancy way of saying average in math class. And what this does is it now makes a chart that I can compare to what it's like now and what it was like 100 years ago. So again, you need to have the mean or average setting selected. For the rainfall section, if you're looking for future rainfall, you can then do monthly precipitation. And it's the same process. You'll see that chart showing the monthly precipitation. I know it's not a bar graph, but it's still showing the total amount of rain in millimeters, just like before. So again, that will help you to get data from the World Bank website for average temperature throughout the year, how they've changed over the last 100 years, how are they predicted to change. So those are the screenshots I'm looking for. In question number 2, it does ask what are the ranges, the average high and low temperatures, and that is where, if you look under the World Bank research, and I did put screenshots of what the settings should look like under projections in case you need that again. But these 2 weather websites here, weatherspark.com is one option. So if you type in your city name, it should pop up in the list. If it doesn't, I did put a second website for a reason. Now, at the top here, you do want to make sure it's in degrees Celsius. And then, let's lose the ads. And then you have data on stuff like temperature for the full year. And this is showing the high temperature in red, the low temperature in blue. You can look at cloud cover, precipitation. It just gives you additional data, like does it snow, when does it snow, things like that. So there are some pieces of data here that could be useful to you, especially the temperature. Now, if that website did not have your city, then there's always World Weather Online, where you can then search by country. So I'm going to go ahead and find Austria in the list. And then below it brings up cities and regions that you can look at. I'm going to find Vienna in my list. And if I click on averages, it brings up a chart actually of the last like 10 years or so. So if I want to zoom in on 2020, that would give me my max, min, and average temperature for last year. You could also scroll down a little bit further to get a graph of the high and low temperatures where it shows the temperatures in degrees Celsius throughout the year for the past year. So this is something that could be useful to see the high and low temperatures. There are other websites here. The climate links, regional profiles are excellent. They are fact sheets by country or by region. Now, not every country or region is listed here, and this is where if your country is not on the list, you might want to check out ones that have similar biomes or similar climates, because some of the challenges they're facing might be the same challenges that your country is facing. And so these climate risk profiles, I know it's a lot of clicks to open, but they're really comprehensive. They kind of go over the key impacts to climate, like climate impacts on the region. So for example, in Armenia, it's reducing crop yields and damaging crops. There's destruction of roads because of the increases in extreme rainfall events. So like this right here is telling me that there's going to be a 20 to 32% increase in extreme rainfall events by 2050. So again, if you're looking for vulnerabilities, again, some of this stuff can be found on the Climate World Bank website, but some possible solutions can be found on these pages as well. And so that's why looking at these climate profiles might be useful to you. Even if it's not for your specific country, it might give you ideas. There's also projected climate change to cities, what's happening to the forests, additional resources compiled by MCPS as related to this project. So there's just additional websites that you might find interesting about freshwater and land usage, communities affected by climate change, and more. So that is what we looked at and worked on in live class. That was an overview of the tour of the module and resources that we did live together. And then just remember, this is your asynchronous work next week, and the interims go out, and I'll see you on Thursday or Friday. So have a good week.